Matt, tell us a little bit about your trial experience. What is it that you look for? How is it that you handle yourself when you go into trial?
I think the best thing to answer that is in my over a decade of experience handling matters from complaint to trial, preparation is key. Knowing what the witnesses are likely to say, knowing exactly what the evidence that could be brought out so that you can put yourself forward with a favorable light to draw out any problems that may occur, whether that be a late reported case or some type of repair that may have occurred in between the time of the loss and the reporting. These are not in and of themselves completely detrimental to a case if framed correctly, if an expert is brought in to overcome any burdens that occurred. And that's what an experienced trial attorney can bring to the table, and that's what we bring to the table here. I can also say that presenting evidence, while I know everybody has seen this on television and has seen how things look through the eyes of a camera, I can tell you, I've seen cases where pro se parties, people who don't have attorneys, end up having an end result with no evidence considered because the process to admit evidence, the process to cross-examine a witness is complicated. And that's where a skilled attorney, a skilled litigator comes in. The fact that we have years of experience stepping before a jury and explaining to them our theory of the case in a believable and likable way that lets them know the human side to this. Because so many times I find that on the eve of trial, you are just a piece of paper. That's all a client may be up until that point. And then when you step before the judge and jury, you are a real person. You are there. They get to look in your eyes and they get to hear your story. They get to hear how this has affected you. You are no longer the name on a complaint. You are a living, breathing person, and the power of that cannot be denied. And I think that that's one of the biggest issues with going to trial is to make sure that everything is presented in the best light. Jamie, can I ask you, what should someone look for when they're actually shopping around for insurance? Many times I get to see this at the end of the case when they've already gotten to trial. What do they look for at the beginning of this?
Well, insurance is a difficult thing. It's a very large contract that a lot of people, even attorneys, have a hard time disseminating what is actually written in there. You have to be careful and make sure that everything that you need covered is in the document. A lot of times there's limits. Make sure you look for any word that is limiting any of your coverage. For example, if you have a plumbing incident, a lot of insurance companies limit your plumbing problems to maybe $10,000 or $20,000. Is that enough for coverage for you? Do you have a lot of items that can be damaged? These are all questions that you really need to take into consideration. Here in Florida, our main thing is hurricanes. Wind damage. Do you have wind damage coverage? How much is your deductible? What is covered? Do you have a lot of content in your property that needs to be covered? If not, don't include that. Make sure that you read the fine print and the details and look at your deductibles, because if you are paying less premiums, that means that your deductible at the end is going to be much, much higher.
That's really important, I say, because many times while we're arguing these cases, one of the arguments is going to be the deductible, because when we get to trial, a jury awards what they feel the damages to a roof is, but then the judge has to remove the deductible from the award. And so many times I've seen in negotiating these matters and in going to trial that a high deductible, while it can solve your premium issue in the short run, ultimately hurts you in the long run when you go to trial and you have, say, a $15,000 deductible that has to be removed.
Yeah, you have to be very careful with the deductibles. Ensure that you are, number one, able to cover the difference. If you have a deductible that's $15,000, your insurance company will only pay a certain portion of your roof and you will have to come up with the $15,000. Do you have that sort of money stashed away? If you don't, then make sure that your deductible is lower, even though your premium is going to be a little bit higher.
That's really true. What steps happen prior to a foreclosure?
So Matt, tell us what steps happen prior to a foreclosure.
Prior to a foreclosure, Jamie, there's a notice of default that has to be sent out with formality. This lets the borrower know that they are owing. This is key because up until the end of the process, there is the right of redemption where someone can come back in, pay off any amounts due and owing, and reclaim the property as theirs.